Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here, and welcome to episode 7 of Gold Goes to the Movies. Yes, we've reached 7 episodes. Another batch of spoiler-free movie reviews coming your way. Just the 3 this time. Just keeping it simple. Just the 3 of them. 1 from the cinema, 2 from Netflix. Also got a new addition to the movie collectibles. New addition to the t-shirt collection as well. Both from my daughters for Father's Day. There's another couple of bits and pieces they've got me, which I'll be using over the next couple of weeks. Very much welcome, as I was starting to flag, especially in the collectible series of toys and things like that to put in the backgrounds for movies. Yeah, obviously you'll know exactly what this is because it quite literally says it on the t-shirt. That one, apparently my daughter had to drive very fast to go and get it from somewhere quite far away. I don't know exactly where that was, but I'm sure you'll work that out. So yeah, the movies I've got for you today, like I say, very different ones. First off, cinema release, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, which, yes, I caught at the... I'm a bit late to the party on that one. It has been out a couple of weeks, but I finally got to the cinema to watch that in the last couple of days. And then Hitman, which is on Netflix, and actually another Netflix movie, which is Under Paris. 3, as you'll know if you've seen any of those, very, very different films. Just as an aside, actually, I watched a couple of kind of films I'd already seen from recent years on TV this week. I'm not going to bore you with reviewing them again or anything like that, but just kind of as an aside, I did watch Bad Boys for Life. After, if anyone's watched the last one, you'll have heard me reviewing Bad Boys Ride or Die. So I kind of wanted to go back and see whether the third instalment was as good as I remembered it being. And it really was. It's just, it is definitely my second favourite film of that franchise after the original. And yes, as I predicted and everyone knew it was going to, the franchise has now passed the $1 billion mark at the cinema. So that, yes, pretty much tells you you're going to hopefully get a 5th instalment in the franchise. I would like that because I do like those films. The other one I watched was, again, veering to a very different end of the spectrum, was the In-Betweeners movie. And I'm intrigued to know anyone from kind of America or anyone worldwide watching these, whether that actually registers or means anything to them. It's a very British movie based on a TV series, which was very popular over here. I actually looked up to see whether it kind of made any mark in America. And I looked at it, cinema box office in America was $36,000. So I'm guessing it wasn't widely released over in America. At all, but actually in England it made $71 million. The reason we do this in dollars is pretty much everywhere you look for box office numbers, it's always in dollars. That's the easiest way to say it. But I was astounded by that number, which is, I guess, why we got a second one a couple of years later, which made $55 million in the UK alone. Which doesn't look like it came out in the US at all. I have a funny feeling that they tried to remake the series for American audiences and it didn't quite work. But yeah, the reason also for saying the box office figures is, so just for that, the In-Betweeners, first one alone in the UK made $71 million. My first film, Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, in the UK has only made $7 million to this point, which I guess gives you an indication, I suppose, of how big those In-Betweeners, kind of the TV series and the movies were over here in the UK, and maybe also just how much cinema watching and the audience has changed over the years. I mean, bear in mind that's 10 years ago, the second In-Betweeners film, and just shows you how much of an impact streaming has, I guess, and people being far more, I guess, selective on going to the cinema. It really has to be a bit of an event for them to go on the whole now, perhaps. Like, you know, we mentioned Bad Boys Ride or Die. That seems to be the one that thankfully has picked up the pace a little bit again after Planet of the Apes, which I still haven't got round to the cinema to see. Those two have kind of been the ones that have, I guess, have saved a lot of the market this year. But yeah, Furiosa, 7 million in the UK. It's only made, I say only, it sounds ridiculous, but it's 160 million worldwide dollars. Funny enough, in South Korea seems to have been pretty big, $11 million there. But obviously, the budget for it, which is quite widely reported, is $168 million. So it hasn't even reached its budget, and that's before you get into marketing and all that sort of stuff that comes after a film is done. And it is no reflection of the movie. It's a great film. I really enjoyed Furiosa. It's a fantastic film. I had a little look to see on Rotten Tomatoes just to see what the world made of it, away from those box office receipts, and 90% rating among critics and 89% audience score. But people just didn't go and watch it, and I presume it will be coming to streaming quite quickly, which seems to be the deal now with these movies that don't quite hit their mark in the cinema. And it's such a shame. Not a shame that it's coming to streaming, although I do think it's the kind of film I'm glad I went to see it on the big screen. I think that was quite important to see the visual spectacle of it. It's just a terrific film. It is. It's, if you're not aware, the Mad Max series from George Miller, the mind of George Miller. It started with the 3 Mel Gibson films back in the day, which progressively kind of got bigger and bigger with each one. And then came Mad Max Fury Road, which was the Tom Hardy-led movie, which obviously came years later. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant film, that one. Always as a kid, Mad Max 2 was the one that I used to really love. Yeah, the Tom Hardy one made 380 million worldwide. So obviously that meant we were eventually, once George Miller kind of got it through the system, we were going to get a 5th film. And it's longer than Fury Road. Fury Road is 2 hours, and this one is 2.5 hours. So, which maybe adds to the look. Fury Road, kind of as the title suggests, is this kind of relentless, tighter, brutal movie. This one, Furiosa, a longer movie. There's a little bit more time to kind of go slightly deeper. I suppose there's more layers to it. It's quite an emotional film. Still very brutal, and still some amazing action sequences. But rather than this kind of fast-paced Fury Road kind of movie, this one is set over a longer period of time. It is very much kind of a saga film. You're seeing over, I mean, decades, or certainly a decade or more, maybe almost 2 decades worth of time passes in the film. And there's a part at me, and this is, I've seen this school of thought out there, that had Furiosa come out before Fury Road, it might have done better. And it might have worked more as a kind of a 1-2 punch. And it might have set up Fury Road to maybe be even bigger than it was. And I get that, and I get the logic behind it, because it does fill in a lot of this backstory and emotional weight to what would come in Fury Road. And George Miller, interestingly, has already said that the script for Furiosa was finished before Fury Road because he wanted the backstory in place for this big character in the movie. So yeah, it's an interesting theory, but I guess it's one of those where would he have got that made back then? I guess that probably is the crux to it, is it's maybe easier to sell hey, Mad Max is coming back. He's going to be played by Tom Hardy, who's like a big star now. Get that through your studio system, whereas maybe trying to sell it as this story of a woman who becomes this kind of maternal warrior, as it were, maybe that's a tougher sell, perhaps. I don't know. The way the movie studio system works, perhaps it is. Whereas in today's world, especially with the success of Fury Road, you get that made. So Furiosa this time is not played by Charlize Theron, who played the character in Fury Road. She's now played partly by Isla Brown as a youngster, and then the very popular right now Anya Taylor-Joy, who many people probably know from The Queen's Gambit. Both are excellent, portraying her in different stages of her life and watching how she kind of grows from this tragedy that kind of happens early on in her childhood, and then surviving this apocalyptic world that the Mad Max Saga is set in, and how she becomes the character we then see in Fury Road. Yeah, superb. But both are excellent. Anya Taylor-Joy really kind of holds the movie as the lead, the heroine of it all. But I have to admit, for me, this film is still somehow all about Chris Hemsworth. He is magnificent, honestly. I think people underrate his work. He's maybe seen as the Marvel guy, Thor. He's seen as maybe an action hero. He's done a lot of the Extraction movies and everything, just kind of, I don't know, because of his physique, because he has been in these big films, they maybe underestimate just how good he is and how good an actor he can be as well. I mean, Thor Ragnarok, yes, it's a big studio Marvel film, but some of the kind of the lightness and the touch that he brings to that role, that is my favourite Marvel film, Thor Ragnarok. He's so good in it. And this performance as Dementors, I think, is probably his best piece of work. I genuinely think that. And I love his portrayals of Thor. Obviously, Love and Thunder got a little bit kind of over the top and camp, but Ragnarok is perfect and very good also in some of the Avengers films. But in terms of just a creation of a character, he is brilliant as in Furiosa. He really is. He's menacing. He's funny. He's caring in one moment. He's got an emotional backstory. He can be reckless yet entirely organised somehow in the same moment as a leader of people, and he manages to pull off these paradoxes, this strange balance so well. He's, I wouldn't say he's quite unrecognisable, but there are prosthetics. He's got kind of a different nose, and he just absolutely captivates you whenever he's on screen. He just chews up the scenery. Everything is about him, and you just can't take your eyes off what he's doing because it's a terrific performance. I guess he's the baddie, but the fact that his performance is so good that it makes you at times think, well, maybe he's not, but he kind of is, and that's the beauty, I guess, of a good villain character, is that the ones that can make you empathise with them as well, while also, I suppose, being a bit of an anti-hero and kind of. But yeah, it's just so many levels to it. It's fantastic. And I don't know whether movies like this are put up for acting awards, whether they get to that stage. I would love to see him up for a Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination. I would. People might laugh at that. They might think, it's... I was going to say maybe people might call it a cartoonish kind of performance. I don't think it is. I think it's just a really memorable character. And I looked back to see what Fury Road was up for. It won a load of Oscars, technical Oscars: film editing, costume design, makeup and hairstyling, sound mixing, sound editing, production design. It won a load of Oscars. But I would love to see it up for an acting one with Chris Hemsworth. And to be fair, George Miller was for Fury Road was nominated for Best Director and Best Movie as well. So actually, John Seale's cinematography was as well. So you never know. You never know. Simon Duggan is on cinematography this time around, and it's just visually stunning. It's one of those, you've got the Australian landscape, the outback, and they just use it so beautifully. This, like I say, apocalyptic world that's in one moment so beautiful and the other moment so unforgiving. This just area, this territory, and the way it is used between kind of warring factions and just the need to survive. It's just perfect for it. There's a real diverse group of characters as well. I really like the British actor Tom Burke played Praetorian Jack, who's kind of like a Mad Max prototype of sorts, like an early version of the Mad Max character. Not Mad Max, but very much in the same vein, and he's very good. The Australian Lackey Holm, I may have absolutely killed the pronunciation of his first name there. He plays the Immortan Joe. It's quite a striking character you would have seen in Fury Road. Last time it was Hugh Keays-Byrne played him. Hugh Keays-Byrne. But this time it is Lackey. Oh, I'm so sorry if I'm absolutely killing the pronunciation of your name there. In this movie, his sons are Scrotus and Erectus. Yes, I know. They're played by Josh Hellman and Nathan Jones. They're very memorable characters as well for differing reasons. Interestingly, Josh Hellman was also in Fury Road as a different character. Both Australian actors. And yeah, so he was in both. If you're kind of into little bits of trivia, Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataki, is also in the movie. I think she has 2 roles in the film. And I think their children also pop up in a scene or two as well. So very much a family affair in this film. But yeah, it's a great film. It's really enthralling. You will be fully involved in it from start to finish. You will really care about Furiosa's journey. And it will probably make you want to go back and watch Fury Road, which I really have to do. I haven't done that yet. And I do kind of want to relive the kind of brutal, fast-paced, non-stop ride that was. I really should do that. Second film of the bunch. It's Netflix's Hitman, which is not to be confused with the video game or the subsequent movies that were based on that series. This film was released initially at the Venice Film Festival last year and then appeared at another couple of festivals, and Netflix bought the distribution rights for $20 million. It came out in select cinemas in the US for about a fortnight, and then came, it was in May this year, and then came onto Netflix this month. Like I say, Chris Hemsworth for me in Furiosa was very much the character that your eyes kind of kept, like you just wanted him back on screen again. This film is very much a vehicle for Glenn Powell. That is absolutely all about him. You might know him from Top Gun Maverick. He kind of played the I guess the modern version of Iceman. Obviously not the same character, but that kind of fulfilling that similar role. And Anyone But You, the romantic comedy. I haven't seen that. I have seen Top Gun Maverick, which was superb, but I have not seen Anyone But You. And this is very much his film to try to shine, and he nails it. He's absolutely brilliant. This feels, for me, like, I know he's in Twisters, I think, next month, but this one feels, for me, the breakout movie. The one that says, yeah, this guy's is your leading man. He is so good in it as well. And it shows a really good range for him as well because, well, as I'm going to explain, it has so many different kind of parts to play within the movie. The story is loosely based on a true story, which honestly, if you read into it, is like, whoa, it's like mind-boggling, the kind of things that actually happened in the true story. It's about a chap called Gary Johnson, a professor of psychology at New Orleans, the University of New Orleans, who helps the police department with undercover sting operations, pretty much from afar, sitting in vans, things like that, helping them understand and go underneath into the minds maybe of these people that are trying to hire a hitman to kill loved ones or enemies or whatever, people that have crossed them. Maybe it's for insurance, could be whatever. And then it just so happens that in one operation, he gets caught right in the middle of it rather than sitting from afar listening to it all. And it just turns out he is very effective at pretending to be a hitman. And that allows us from that point on then to see him as a range of different characters, different hitmen, all trying to, I suppose, entrap, in a way, people into doing the deal that they came to do, which is hire someone to kill someone they no longer want on the face of the earth. And so, yeah, he plays different characters throughout, clearly, relishing it, and everyone is such a very different character, and it just allows him to kind of stretch his acting skills as well. It's really good. It's a really good film. It's really enjoyable. My wife and I both watched it. It was a very good Saturday night movie on TV. The only thing I would say, my only little peeve with it was I felt the ending right at the end was very rushed. It kind of had been really well crafted to that point, and you're really interested to see which way it goes, and you're a bit like, okay, we're done. And that was it. That was my only thing about it, was it kind of, got to this point and you wondered, like, oh, what's going to happen next? And it was like, oh, that happens. And that was it. But up to that point, it's very good. It's funny. It's got very clever little scenes in it as well. Lots of bits of kind of tense scenes. It's good. It was very good. I love the fact that it's directed by Richard Linklater, who's got this really diverse CV of movies that he's directed, from Boyhood, Scanner Darkly, School of Rock, Before Sunrise, Dazed and Confused. You can kind of see he goes all over the place with the kind of movies he directs, and I guess it gives a nice kind of all-round nature to it. This has got a really nice light touch to it. The supporting cast are really good as well. Adria Arjona plays the love interest, but more so than just a love interest. That's probably doing it a disservice just to call it that. It's got some good depth to the character. I'm not going to talk too much about a character because there's quite a bit to it. But Star Wars fans will probably know her from Andor. She's very good in that. She's also done a few kind of Hollywood and Netflix streaming ones recently. Morbius, obviously, the Jared Leto Sony Marvel movie, which was not the greatest. Six Underground, the Ryan Reynolds Netflix film, which I quite enjoyed. The Andy Garcia version of Father the Bride, which I haven't watched. I love the original Father the Bride. The Steve Martin version of it. And she's also been in various TV shows like True Detective, Good Omens, another film, Pacific Rim Uprising. She was also in as well. The rest of the cast is people like Retta from Parks and Recreation, who has a good little role. I love her in Parks. I love Parks as a series, and she's good in this as well. Austin Emilio from The Walking Dead, you might know him, and he's a very good kind of slimy character within this film. He's excellent as the kind of, I guess, the instigator of some of the things that happen as this film goes on. Very good. But like I say, this is all about Glenn Powell. It is. He is going to become, I think, one of the big kind of stars in Hollywood, kind of the next, maybe like Chris Pratt type leading man. I think we're going to see him. He's actually, talking of, I suppose there's a link there, he's just turned down apparently the new Gareth Edwards Jurassic Park, Jurassic World rebooty type thing, whatever you want to call it, because in his words, he didn't feel his presence would help it, which is interesting. But I don't think, to be fair, he probably is going to need that. I think he's going to be a kind of a big leading man anyway. We'll see what Twisters is like, whether that solidifies that or whether that'll be a little bit of a setback or not. I really hope it's good. I love the original Twister. And I hope that this is going to be a worthy follow-up all these years on. But yeah, definitely I think all eyes are going to be on Glenn Powell kind of going forward. He's excellent in this. He's so much more than just a leading man. There seems to be a lot more to him. It's a really enjoyable film. It's very good. The reviews have been excellent for it, and it's been very, very well watched as well. It's been a big smash on Netflix. So, yeah, I do recommend it. Want a Saturday night movie in front of the telly? That's one for you. The other one in front of the telly, which is another Netflix movie, which is definitely the cheesiest of the bunch of these three, and it really should be utterly awful, but somehow it wasn't, is Under Paris. Look, if you go into it expecting a healthy dollop of cheese, or I suppose fromage, as this is a French film, it's a bit of an action, horror, disaster, monster film, shark movie, whatever you want to call it. This is what it is. It's essentially Jaws in Paris. Champs-Élysées, can we say that? I don't know. Kind of Jaws crossed with the Meg. Essentially high concept stuff. A giant shark appears in the River Seine. The river, obviously, if you've been to Paris, it's the main river that runs through it. It was made for only $21 million budget-wise. The special effects at times reflect that, although that shouldn't be always the case. You know, Godzilla Minus One that we spoke about, I think it was last week, the budget did not impact its effects. Effects were incredible, special effects. This veer sometimes from the quite effective to the kind of special effects. Yeah. You can see where the money kind of wasn't there for certain bits, but it's fun. It's fun. It's silly fun. Because it's in Paris, you get to see lots of shots of the French capital, the landmarks, city's catacombs as well is very cool. There is definitely a huge Jaws vibe and kind of nod, homage, derivative, whatever you want to call it. Essentially, a marine biologist and a police officer trying to convince the mayor that it's dangerous in the water. Does that sound familiar? It should do. Just with French language, of course. You can watch it, of course, as always, with the dubbed English version or the subtitles. I always go for the subtitles. Always. I always want to hear the original actors' voices and the way they do it. So yeah, shark in the water. Paris is hosting the World Triathlon Championships on the River Seine for the first time, and you don't want a massive shark in the water if you're going to do that with lots of people swimming in it. So yeah, it kind of sets itself up for what's to come. The early reviews of the movie were very favourable. They've kind of tailed off a bit since that point, but maybe those early reviews pushed a lot of people towards Netflix to watch it. As would the trailer and the fact that it is a very high concept, shark in the river in Paris. But it is already Netflix's 5th most watched non-English language movie ever. And it's not even been out that long. Look, among the cheese and the slightly iffy effects at times, some of the action scenes are quite thrilling. You know, I reviewed Meg 2, The Trench, a couple of weeks back, and, you know, big Hollywood film. I would say there were far more scenes in this film, Under Paris, that were much more kind of nerve-wracking than anything found in that movie at all. Really, it had some kind of clever, tense scenes in it. It's directed by Xavier Gens, who has worked in Hollywood and, strangely enough, because we mentioned it earlier, actually directed Hitman, the 2007 movie based on the game that we spoke about earlier, rather than the current Netflix Hitman. And he brings that kind of action ability with it, and there are some scenes where genuinely it's, especially when it's dark and there's some moments in the catacombs. There's one scene in particular in the catacombs which are a bit like, you know, it's brutal. It is very kind of, it's very much leans into the horror element, and it is generally quite scary and effective. There are other scenes where less so, but I actually felt it worked far more than it should have. The main stars of the film are Berenice Bejo, who she has been in Hollywood films way back in the day. Actually, she was in A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. She was also in The Artist more recently. She plays the grieving marine biologist who just, you know, has to come back and help out when a shark that she's very much aware of turns up in Paris. I'm not going to fill in the gaps in that one for you. And she, you know, brings the required gusto to the role and the emotional aspects that you, as much as you can in a movie like this. Nassim Liz, sorry again with the pronunciation. He's the all-action police officer type. He's been in a few kind of memorable recent films. He was in Overdose a couple of years ago, which was Amazon's most viewed non-English language film, and he was also in The Spy, the Netflix series with Sacha Baron Cohen. He is a very decent action hero in this, actually. I wonder whether this will now lead to more kind of American stuff, maybe in a similar vibe as a bit of the action hero. He's a good-looking chap, and he kind of carries it all off very well. So, it may lead to kind of a big old jump in his career as well. And like I say, it can be cheesy, this film. It can be very derivative, especially of Jaws. But it also has some moments that are quite inventive and dark and brutal, like I say, as well. So we're not talking Sharknado here. It's not that kind of level of cheese by any stretch of the imagination. And I must also say, the ending is excellent. The ending's really good. Again, it's got some iffy special effects, some low budget effects. But the final shots are very good. I love the way it finishes. And I would definitely watch a sequel, and very much the ending, you can kind of see where that would go and where it would come from. And I'm guessing after all the success it's had, it would kind of make sense as well. It's silly fun. It is silly fun, but albeit with a few little dark, clever moments that will make you kind of, ugh. It's one of those where you'll definitely look at the water and the rivers in major cities, and like, you know, next time I'm in the town in London, I would definitely be looking at River Thames and like, ooh, having a little look, as Jaws, I guess, made you do back in the day. Like I say, 3 very diverse films, and that's it. That's the 3 movies, just the 3. We've got some big films coming out in the next few weeks, which I'm going to try to get to see as many as I can. We've got The Bike Riders, the Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer film. We've got Quiet Place Day 1 is out as well. Horizon American Saga Chapter 1, the Kevin Costner Western flick, which has been not too kindly taken by the critics, but me as a bit of a Yellowstone fan, I'm probably going to still try and give it a go. Twisters, as I mentioned, that's coming out next month. And then we've got Deadpool and Wolverine, which is heading along at the end of July, which I've only just realised I'm actually on the other side of the world for work. I go 3 days before it comes out. I'm in Japan. So anyone in Japan, please do let me know. When they show films in the cinema, are they dubbed or are they in the original English with subtitles? The English films, of course, Hollywood films. Because I think I'm going to have to go and watch it. Otherwise, it's one of those movies that there's going to be so many spoilers that by the time I get back to the UK, about a week or so later, I'm guessing all of the good stuff is already going to be out there and spoiled. So I really don't want to, especially with a movie like that, not see it with fresh eyes and not knowing everything. So yeah, please do let me know if you're from Japan or lived in Japan or have ever watched a Hollywood movie in Japan. Please do let me know. I'm sure I could probably Google it. There may be an answer to it, but it's always nice to have a little kind of discussion in the comments as well. So there you go, 3 films, all of which actually this week I would probably say, yeah, why not go and watch it? Furiosa, probably the one I enjoyed the most. Hitman, a close second, very enjoyable. And Under Paris, cheesy, good fun for like a bit of a switch your brain off film. So there you go. Yeah. Plenty more to come, as I say, in the weeks ahead. We'll do a lot more of these. And thanks for watching. Time to head off. I might go and watch Fury Road. Might spend the rest of my evening going back and watching that. So yeah, as always, look after yourself. Stay safe, stay healthy. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.